You're not good enough, your thighs are disgusting, that leotard doesn't look right on you because it doesn't pull you in.
I was 0.5 over the scales, and I remember having to go into the fitness gym constantly for about 7-8 hours for 2 days.
It just got to the point where I was always scared.
I had to train in ankle weights, so I would know next time that that's how it would feel if I put on weight.
Gymnasts having their hair pulled, being pushed, and we're talking about 10-year-old girls being pushed around by a fully grown adult.
These individuals tell a story of a culture of bullying, fear and discrimination in British gymnastics over a period spanning 4 decades. A period which has seen Great Britain transform from podium spectators to a medal-winning force on the world stage. From Beth Tweddle to Max Whitlock, gymnastics is one of the jewels in the crown of British Olympic sport.
Here's a third big tumble.
But now it's a time of reckoning. This week, the sport's head coach, Amanda Reddin, has been temporarily suspended over bullying claims. An independent review into allegations of mistreatment within gymnastics has formally begun. And now Sky News can reveal that several gymnasts are pursuing a group action legal case. It could be the most damaging blow yet to the system. So how did one of sport's great success stories end up here? I've been reporting on issues around welfare in British gymnastics for the past 3 years, when a group of parents came to me concerned with what they saw as failures of British gymnastics to protect young gymnasts. But it's only this summer that the true scale of these allegations have become apparent. Tens, maybe even hundreds of athletes all around the country claiming they were the victim of physical and emotional abuse. Charlie Fellows is one of them. She was among Britain's best gymnasts, representing her country around the world. But she's scarred by her experiences and still struggles with body image.
I had a day off, and then I went in the next day and I was 0.5 over the scales, and I remember having to go into the fitness gym. It was constantly for about 7-8 hours for 2 days until I got back down to the weight that they wanted me to get at.
Why?
They told me I was too heavy to train, I shouldn't be at that weight, this is how injuries are going to occur. So if I'm not at this weight, then I won't be able to train properly and achieve what I wanted to achieve.
In the 1970s and early 1980s, the Soviet and Romanian gymnasts dominated. First came Olga Korbut, nicknamed the Sparrow from Minsk. Then Nadia Comaneci, who achieved the first perfect 10, aged just 14. Soon, coaches here were being dispatched over there to watch how they did it. And in the early 1990s, the first wave of Soviet and Romanian coaches began instructing in UK gyms. Claire Hefford says her former coach was among the first.
We're talking about 10-year-old girls being pushed around by a fully grown adult, which was really, really very scary. And that was enough really to kind of set the frame of the rest of the abuse that took place. There was withdrawal of attention, deliberately ignoring certain gymnasts, a lot of being sent out the gym or taken off bits of equipment.
Many of the world's best gymnasts, including Nadia Comaneci, were products of the Deva training camp in Romania. In 1992, Adrian Stan was recruited from Deva to be head women's national team coach at British Gymnastics. He's now head of coaching. There's no suggestion that Stan himself was abusive, but this documentary, The Secret of Deva, offers a glimpse into the way young girls were treated there by other coaches. Individuals within British gymnastics told me they believed that this way of coaching was exported wholesale. The unparalleled expertise, but sometimes also an Eastern Bloc brutality.
Emotional abuse, belittling, humiliation, being shouted at aggressively, and generalised, ongoing disappointment. And I think really it's the disappointment that causes the emotional turmoil all the years later, because it did not matter what we did, it was not good enough.
The aftermath of a dismal Olympics for Team GB in Atlanta in 1996 prompted the introduction of national lottery funding. British Gymnastics is receiving £17 million for the cycle to the Tokyo Games. This pays for the upkeep of the National Training Centre in Lilleshall, but some have unhappy memories of the place. Roxanne remembers starving herself to prepare for a trip to Lilleshall. She belonged to the South Durham Gymnastics Club.
We used to run to the toilet before getting weighed. We'd stand outside the toilet waiting for others, jogging on the spot, like one last pathetic attempt to lose weight. We'd strip down to just our leotard, even took out hair clips and scrunchies, so we would just weigh that little bit less. And like, I was muscly, but I wasn't fat by any stretch of the imagination. I was constantly made to feel like I was. And then told I had to train in ankle weights, so I would know next time that that's how it would feel if I put on weight. I've had issues with weight and eating ever since, like binge eating. I've thrown up, I've hidden my food when I've eaten it.
Roxanne's mum Eileen says the parents were manipulated too.
The word I've used is groomed, almost brainwashed into believing that this is elite sport, this is elite gymnastics. If these kids want to do well, which they did, this was necessary for them to do that.
Olympic bronze medalist Amy Tinkler also says she was the victim of abuse at South Durham. She retired earlier this year, still just a teenager, blaming her traumatic experience at the club for leaving the sport. The club categorically denies any allegations of abuse and mistreatment of any of its gymnasts.
And a great way to bring this women.
Elite sport does take blood, sweat and tears, and it's the job of the coach to get the best from the gymnast. They're also responsible for their safety, and excess weight can cause injury. One former coach and sports psychologist thinks coaches can become blinkered.
Gymnastics is a sport where excellence is given a number, and therefore it's the notion of perfectionism and excellence and all the rest of it. I think particularly the mindset of the elite coaches, it's about the pursuit of that. I think they'd say, in order to do this, to get to this place, this is what you have to go through.
That control doesn't just stop at weight. Some of the women I've spoken to have mentioned this obsession with every aspect of the way that they look. Now, you won't see this written in the rule book, but one former welfare officer for British Gymnastics told me that before they go onto the competition floor, young gymnasts are advised to hike their leotards up like they're in a Miley Cyrus concert in order to impress the judges. Claims of bullying and fat-shaming are not just confined to artistic gymnastics. Mimi Cesar represented England in rhythmic gymnastics.
I genuinely did think of myself what I was told constantly, like, you're not good enough, your thighs are disgusting, that leotard doesn't look right on you because it doesn't pull you in. And like moments where I'm at a competition and I won, for example, and then someone says to you, your thighs are horrible. Like there was nothing wrong with your routine but your thighs.
She was selected to be one of the poster girls for the upcoming Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, her home city. But Mimi claims she was told, aged 25, that she was past it.
I have been told, like, to my face that it is my age and that I am too old. And that is the reason why I won't be in a leotard for Birmingham.
It's not just girls either. Christian Norman was a promising young gymnast, but left the sport after he claims to have suffered years of abuse from his coach. He's now an academy footballer at Sunderland, but finds it difficult to talk about his gymnastics.
It just got to the point where always like scared to go gym.
The name he used to call Christian was just horrendous, and anything was, you know, you're a gay boy, you know, if any move that he couldn't quite get right or whatever, it was, oh, just man up, you gay boy, or you. It was just horrendous, and knowing that he was going through that for such a long time and bottling it up, and we didn't necessarily realise the full extent of what was going on. It makes you, as a parent, feel just absolutely...
It must make you...
Oh, yeah. So years later, it's very, very raw, yeah.
2 years ago, UK Sport ordered what they called a culture check after an avalanche of allegations around duty of care in other Olympic sports, from para-swimming to canoeing and cycling, to mention just a few. But these allegations around gymnastics take us right to the present day, leaving some to wonder, what exactly have these investigations achieved? It could be well into next year or longer before there are any substantive answers from the independent inquiry into these abuse claims. But with several former gymnasts already pursuing their own legal claims, change could be forced through sooner.
I really do think that there's been a culture within gymnastics that has allowed people in positions of power to get away with abusive actions, and they've not been facing any consequences.
The relief for many lies in finally finding a collective voice to call for change.
If I didn't say anything, I wouldn't just be letting myself down, I'd be letting every other little one that wants to try and make it as a rhythmic gymnast down.
I don't want my gymnast to experience what I've had to gone through.
The thing that I would like to come out of this is that it becomes normalised for women in their 20s and 30s to be able to compete at an international level.
From an antiquated pastime to an Olympic winning machine, gymnastics in Britain has until now been in the ascendancy. But with the full weight of these abuse allegations yet to land, we still don't know the true cost of those medals. Martha Kelner, Sky News.